But yeah, because we talked about it, I think it was in the previous episode. It might have been the one before it, but Johan
Johansson?
Johansson, yes. Out of Blade Runner. Big news this week.
Saw that. It's
What happened?
Who is it?
Fucking Hans.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
So how are they doing it this late? Isn't it coming out like
That's what
in a
everyone
week?
wants to know.
He got Zimmered.
They got Zimmer. Yeah, Zimmer's going to crank it out overnight, I guess.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, originally Zimmer wasn't involved, but he was like second name, you know, and some other guy who I'm not familiar with.
So he's been the alternate all along? I mean, is that how this works?
Well, no, he wasn't like the alternate. He was just like assisting.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Kind of, I guess, kind of like the Tron soundtrack. Like that was primarily Daft Punk, assisted by the Zimmerman.
Yeah.
He added some symphonic strings behind the
Right,
Daft Punk stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he was doing something like that. But yeah, now it's all him.
Wasn't the big reveal after The Dark Knight that he just uses Zebra? Like he has all that crazy ass gear, and he basically just uses Zebra.
He used Zebra a lot. Like he revealed it in one
Yeah.
of those videos, but he also uses some real string player.
Oh, okay.
Because they showed him in some of the behind the scenes stuff, like going to town on strings. So
He himself? Like he's playing?
no,
Oh,
this
okay.
this dude that he like works with, he was doing all the crazy string stuff, and then I guess Hans was just kind of using that along with some stuff in Zebra.
But it's that weird thing, like the picture of the studio, and that studio is just like insane. Like it looks like a fake painting
Yeah.
of like this perfectly ideal Victorian studio, and then it's just him squatting over a computer using Zebra.
Yeah, you want to see him use the fucking wall of modulars.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem with Hans, but I do have a problem with the fact that it's going to be last minute now and rushed.
Remember that first time he did that soundtrack, and then he did the same thing for everyone after?
Yes.
I feel like there's just like it just sounds
It's going to sound like
him.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot.
Inception.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of variety in what he does, but I'm just a little disappointed this is now going to sound like every other movie
Yeah.
made over the
a
last 10
string.
years. Yeah.
A string sound in the
Epic
background.
swell, epic swells.
Or the sound of a ticking clock. It's an anxious moment. It's tense. You can hear a clock ticking for the last 10 minutes in the background of the soundtrack. Time is important. He did it again in Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like halfway through the movie. It might even been like through the whole movie. I don't know, because my brain just started to like block it out. But there's like that constant ticking in the sound. It sounds like a stopwatch.
Yeah.
And a constant single string note going in the background.
Yeah.
For tension, you know. And it's just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's a tense moment. Yeah.
Right.
And it's building. Yeah.
He should have to only use a CS80 to do whatever he does, or a Deckard Stream or a CS80. and
The
that's
Deckard
it.
Stream seems really appropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be. That was it, Knobcon.
Was it?
Yeah.
We didn't play it. I don't know why. I was just like, yeah, I don't even want to like it. It scares me, you know. But it's a kit. You can
Yeah.
build it as a kit too, and it's for everything but the enclosure. I saw it's like $350. All the sliders, just you still got to the enclosure is like no joke, but
Yeah.
you can buy that from some other company, and then it's like $1,100 built, which is like a 30th of the price of what a CS80 would be. I think
Yeah.
they're like $30,000 or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they pop up.
Yeah, when you can get one,
Yeah.
that would work maybe.
I ended up playing with pretty much everything I walked past except for the World of Romplers.
Yeah.
And that was one I did the same thing. I'm like, that's cool. Yeah, I'm fine with not falling in love with it.
I feel like the only thing I'd want to do with the CS80 is just make the Blade Runner just soundtrack. Just sit there. And that's kind of what they were doing in the trailer already. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I'm
really?
pretty sure that was Johan's work. You know what I mean? Because it sounded very much like the Vangelis score, but it was like, you know,
Definitely.
tweaked. And I'm like, okay, if this is how the soundtrack's going to be for a movie, I'm totally fucking into that. But then, I don't know, if it's just going to be all strings now, like you're saying, it swells. Like, I don't know. Like, why did they get rid of Johan? You know what I mean? Like,
Good question.
his people released no info, said they can't due to NDAs. So it's like, what the fuck happened?
I mean, I've not heard that guy's like an asshole. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't follow him closely, but like it's not like he's a notoriously hard person to work with or anything.
Dude, it seemed like everyone was excited that he was involved. Like, because I feel like every fan of Blade Runner had that concern initially. Like, okay, all movie concerns aside, how's the sound going to be? You know what I mean? Like, what's the soundtrack going to be like? And when they announced him and then the trailer came out and it sounded excellent, it was like, okay, I can roll with this, and now he's just like last minute kicked out. It's like, what the fuck? Anything else about Knobcon you guys want to follow up on? Like, we did the Knobcon hype. Now what about the follow-up? Criticisms?
I'd like to give a little I don't want to say shout out because that's what like people at work say now, so that means it's over.
It's dead.
What's another accolades? Let's go with the classic.
Props. A big
Not
ups.
kudos. I fucking hate
No, not
kudos.
Fuck kudos.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a candy bar?
Yeah.
It was a candy bar
They
for a
were
while.
shitty.
Big ups.
Big ups.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, let's go big ups.
Props.
Props or big ups? Listeners, you choose. Synthcube. They ran the Ornament and Crime build workshop, and the dude Raph ran it. Fucking astounding. I cannot recommend anyone who's interested in like doing DIY stuff. Basically, all skill levels. Had a lot of SMT parts. Showed everyone how to do it. People obviously had in the group had like maybe not necessarily done like a lot of stuff or any at all. I now have a working Ornament and Crime. It was overall a positive experience, except for this is not their fault. One of the people in the group was a colossal asshole.
Oh yeah, that fucking dude.
So it's sort of at the beginning, and it's the bottom floor of Knobcon, like that hotel, and they had moved the bug out room to right beside it, which made perfect sense because it was like it's out of the way. They could go
Couldn't
real
hear
loud.
shit.
Exactly. So they're sound checking. It was like early in the morning on Sunday, and they're sound checking because they were going to start at 1, and you could hear it. It wasn't outrageously loud, but it was like, oh, you can hear something's going on, but like you could still hear people talking in this room. This dude beside me is like getting agitated, and like every time the sound would come on, he would, oh, what is this? What is this? And the whole time I'm thinking, you're at a fucking synthesizer convention. Like, you're gonna hear sounds.
Yeah.
No one promised perfect peace and quiet for you. You came to the wrong fucking place. If you go up into the main room, it's just buzzing and weird sounds and commotion. It's going back and forth for about a half an hour. Like, he's not really working on it because every time like the sound would come on, like he'd put everything down and go like exasperated, like I can't work in these conditions. Like, he's a fucking pro golfer. So he so at one point he stands up and just storms out, and that's sort of like 3, 2, 1. The sound in the next room goes out. I'm like, are you fucking? Did he seriously? And sure enough, comes back in proud as a fucking peacock, like his chest all puffed up. He's like, I will not be made a fool of, and sits back down just so fucking proud of himself. Like, he showed those kids.
Douche, yeah.
So thankfully, a
I
little
would
while.
have made it louder, dude. I'd been like,
Oh,
get
yeah.
the fuck out of here.
So I had to leave early. It was supposed to be 10 to noon, and then there was going to be a break, and then from 1 to 2 would be the second half. But Eric, the dude who ran the bug out room, super cool guy, asked me and Nick if we wanted to play in the bug out room at 1. It's like, cool. I didn't really want to stay for the workshop the whole time. I was like, cool. So I went back, got my stuff, pack up, and I go over to the bug out room. About 1 o'clock starts. And a little bit after that, we started playing. And even when we start playing, I'm like, oh shit, that workshop just started up. I bet that dude's just sitting over there. I'm like,
Peacock's gonna come yell at me.
About how long into us playing did he show up?
15 minutes.
About
20
15 minutes into it.
Yeah.
And I look over and it's him. His fucking chest is all puffed up. Just walks over, like right in front of everything, like right to where we're playing. Did you hear what he actually said? I mean, I know he was yelling because he just had the look of like an angry old dude yelling at people to get off his lawn.
All I heard was Mike, the guy that we were playing with, at one point looks over, he's like, oh, that dude wants us to turn it down. And so I started to turn it up because he's still there, and started to stare at him while we turned the bass up more, and it's like more and more sound. And of course he wouldn't like look over, and I just wanted him to because it was early and I was fucking ornery at the time because I was like, this dude's like, you're at a synth convention, dude. This is like the room that has big speakers that's dedicated to making sound. Like,
Yeah.
put some fucking headphones on, man. Do something.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only fucking
Yeah.
person complaining on this whole thing. Maybe
Whole fucking hotel, you got one jagoff who thinks he speaks for everyone.
it's just like,
I couldn't possibly be the only one that has a problem with this. No.
But he did leave, and we didn't turn down.
no, we didn't turn down.
Turn down for what?
Yeah.
So that was the only downside of that entire workshop. which again, not SynthCube's fault.
It always takes.
Yeah.
There's always got to be one, you know.
What were other highlights? I'm trying to think.
Oh, the noise engineering booth.
Oh yeah, the Manus Eteritas,
Yeah.
which was, as they self-described it, 9 Inch Nails in a module, which sounded pretty good. And nastier Basimilus. It's like all sawtooth, wave-based. It had a few different modes, like a little filter onto it. Seemed more like kind of a mini synth voice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of like Basimilus, but had I think it had a low-pass filter on it or some shit too. Sounded good.
All the rest of the Roland Boutique synths were there.
Yeah.
And we got to play with those. And
Yeah, the D05 was the big surprise at that point because they debuted the D50 clone, which is just like, that's in, I think, 80s synth.
Yeah,
that
the
has,
the D50, yeah.
LA synthesis or whatever. It
Yeah.
sounded like it can be very fucking cheesy keyboard sounds or like swirly pad stuff.
what's the one with the gimmicky little joystick?
Yeah, it did seem like they had the studio electronics one, which sounded really good, but the knobs on it were like fucking garbage. Like, really felt like super flimsy and small. The 101 that was definitely the best built. It's a little cramped, but it sounded really good.
I gotta say though, going back to the SE02, I had all the demos online, just made it seem like real, like bread and butter, like not that exciting.
What is the SEO2 supposed to be?
It's Studio Electronics was like, here is the circuit. It's kind of a mini Moog clone.
That's
they've
what I
already
thought. Okay,
had, and
because it
they're
looked like one.
Here you
All
go.
right.
Put it in your box, Roland.
Okay.
They did all the circuitry and were like, convert this design over to Surface
Why is
Mount.
Roland making a Moog clone though?
Good question.
Oh, that's
I mean, it sounded
from
like
Studio. Like what a weird.
it's a strange collab.
Yeah.
Like.
But it sounded way better than that. I mean, definitely not up my alley. Like I'm not
I
tempted to
watched
get
a
it.
couple demos of it. It did sound nice, but again, I'm not into Moog sounds.
But based on the videos I saw, which made it just sound incredibly boring, playing with it live, it had a lot more teeth than I thought it was going to.
It has cross mod too between
Yeah.
the oscillators, which I don't think you can do on a Moog. I'm not really familiar with Moogs either. I've never really had one or used one much.
I think it deserved mention just in the fact that it was surprisingly sounding better than it
And
was.
it's cheap as fuck, right? Like,
Yeah.
compared to any
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
Moog clone. Like,
Totally.
Yeah.
Way cheap. And
So-
they're good circuit designers.
So they'll
it
sell
seems.
millions of these things.
I would think so.
I don't know because it's the least sexy of the ones that they put out. Like it's just a very.
But
And
it's
the-
Moog. Everyone likes that.
But the
sound.
demos
Yeah.
are really bland.
Yeah.
They're not doing themselves any favor with these demos they've put out.
But even the D50, it's like the same shitty kind of button editing of the old one. Like they didn't really make it any better. Which I guess if you want that sound, it's like I saw people on Muffler that were like, "Oh, this is the one I've been waiting for," or something. Which is like, well, I don't understand you at all, but that's cool if you want that. Lego Welt made the demo. Like they got him to make a video of it, and because he likes that, and he can probably patch it really well and
Yeah.
make that electro kind of stuff, like old school 80s throwback stuff.
Yeah.
So I could see it in that light, but that's not, I don't think, what any of us are going for.
Yeah.
They had one SH01 because I went to the Roland guy who, it was cool to talk to him. I talked to the guy who leads the team that makes the boutiques. Like super polite Japanese dude. It was awesome to talk to. And he's like, no, we don't have any here. There's one over at Synth City, which is like what Foxtone's used company is called now.
Okay.
Same people basically. And they were like, yeah, we had one and it was gone in 4 minutes or something, 5 minutes, like sold and bought. Like, okay.
Damn.
Because I think the way they said it was like, oh, we were leaving to pack up for this, and there was a rolling box in the hallway. And we were like, oh, what's this? And they just pulled like an 808 and an SH1 out and left, and kind of brought it to Knobcon. So
I'm honestly surprised that they didn't make this a 202.
yeah, that
Because
seems-
they're going with small form factor. The 202 was already a small form factor 101 without keys.
Yeah.
So like, why not just reproduce the 202?
That's a good
I don't know.
question.
Yeah.
Maybe the 101 is a little bit more.
Notorious.
Yeah, that's people know what that is, even if you're not a synth nerd.
True. That is true, dude. Because even a few years ago, you could get a 202 on eBay cheap as fuck.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew what the fuck it was. Like until I think like Aphex Twin mentioned like that he loves his 202, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh shit, that's just like a small 101." It's like, yeah, no shit.
and Boards of Canada. And like,
Yeah. Because I remember when my 101 shit itself, I was like, well, maybe I'll just get a 202. And I should have fucking jumped on it, dude, because they were so cheap on
Yeah.
eBay at that
Yeah.
time. And that was like, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? I know you were digging some visual stuff.
The other thing
Lots
was
of
the
visuals.
erogenous tones future module.
Yeah.
It was fucking mind blowing.
What the hell's that?
You could load like 3D models onto it that you
What?
could project with the module. You could control them with CV or audio, and you could load like custom shader code for the 3D models, and that's like the shaders that would apply to those meshes or whatever objects you're loading in there. And it had a little PlayStation controller joystick on it, and you could map anything to that, and it would record the movements of the joystick. And it was, he had like a simple feedback patch, and then was playing back some stuff, and it was like some of the best video shit that either of us we were just standing there like jaws dropped. Like,
And it's just
what the fuck?
And it's just one module. This could be the first and potentially only thing you needed to hook video stuff up to your modular rack.
The main mecha, yeah.
Oh, right.
That sounds like something that would be a good partner with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Get like a 2-channel video mixer and mix between the two type of thing.
We didn't get an ETA or release date from it, but it was not crude. I think it might be pretty soon.
We both saw it and we're like, oh god, Nate Cake would like shit his pants over this basically.
Yeah.
Because it was like load in these models and twist them. Like it seemed like he would go nuts on it just based on the stuff that he makes.
Cool.
Seemed like all the video stuff was next level, and even the Saturday night stuff where they had people playing music. The best part by far was the video synth stuff that was going along with it. Dude had an LCX system, and then it had like multiple feedback loops going with different monitors and shit, and it was awesome.
Nice.
Like it was really good. There's also the Paul Schreiber experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knobcon annual festivity of talking to Paul about whatever he's cooking up. The 352 and the E370, which are his new oscillators. The 352 is pretty much the king of wavetable oscillators right now, as far as like single voice wavetable with a bunch of, it's an extension of his 350 morphing terrarium and the cloud generator, which was the 340. So it's both of those plus a bunch of stuff. 2-op FM application to load your own wavetables via SD card.
And the editor.
Sounds Unreal editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 16-bit stuff instead of 8-bit now, like the old stuff was. And just amazing. And then the 370, which is the 4-voice version of that, which is more limited from control standpoint. You only get 2 controls for each voice, but you can assign them to a bunch of stuff, and that does through 0 FM and a sampler, which just got leaked even more when somebody on...
So it's not a secret anymore?
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
He had it on there, so it can be a sampler on each one of those 4 channels on the big one. The guy that made that VCV, that open source modular synth program, made the editor. It was mind-blowing shit. Sounds amazing. I love it.
You have one. I have one.
Yep.
We both had them since Knobcon. I squeezed mine in 2 nights before I had that show. It was not hard for me to figure out a way to use it live. I was nervous about slapping something into my rig so last minute, you know what I mean? Because there's definitely things I don't know about that module yet, and I was like, oh, I'm going to fuck something up. But
It's not surprising, though, because even when you took yours back to the hotel room after you picked it up, within minutes, you're making shit. Like, there's a lot of deep stuff in it.
Yeah.
But you were minutes away from just making awesome sounds.
Yeah, it's so straightforward, and he's got like a little manual in there. There's an about screen if you're confused about the controls. Like, he really thought like, all right, let's just make this so you can pick this thing up and use it in a few minutes. For as deep as it is, like, he kicked ass on that one.
Yeah, the screen's actually it serves a purpose other than eye candy.
Yeah.
It's very useful to the interface and to just like figuring shit out, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, like I spent an hour with it, and I felt like I wrapped my head around every option within it. I was even changing the colors of shit on it already, and you know what I mean?
Nice.
It's like, yeah, I was like, this thing's sweet. It made me want the 370.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, this is one voice, you know, and it's that powerful and it has that much potential. Like, I can't imagine a module that has 4 of those embedded in it with more options. Like,
Yeah,
There is one bummer about the 370.
what's that?
It's crazy fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now after the promo is over, it's like $400 more, or like
It's $1,400, I think it was going to be.
Yeah, and he had it there for like $950 or something like that. It's not cheap, but it's like you get a ton of stuff.
I mean, that could be your oscillator.
I was just saying, it's one of those modules where like you wouldn't need another fucking oscillator. Like, I think a lot of people build systems around like a voice, and I feel like this is the first one that would satisfy me. I mean, just with the 352 alone, I'm having a blast with it, and I can easily see having another one paired with it.
It's the only oscillator in my live rig right now. As soon as I got it, I kind of redid the
I think it's
rig
the
and
only
then
one of
redid it
mine.
again.
Or no, I
It's
have
the
the
only one I need right
I have
now.
the syncator in there also, but
Gotcha.
that's just for like some extra help. But yeah, it was my main oscillator driving the show.
And it FMs really well too. You can really nail it with really high frequency FM, and it doesn't break up like some digital modules will. It's really, really clean. I think it's all 2496 internally or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
it
enough
sounds
that
high
doesn't
quality
matter.
as fuck.
Yeah.
It really does.
Very.
I mean, in all honesty, Paul's kicking ass right now.
You can tell. I mean, that is why Braids was discontinued. Is that module right there?
Yeah.
Period. He even came out and put his post on there, which was kind of sad, Olivier, and it's like, there are people out there doing it better. And I didn't realize that Braids is like very close to the price of that. Actually, it's not far.
Braids
I forgot
new
how
is
much.
$399.
Yeah, and that's $450 or $469 now, which that's like no brainer. You're gonna get the 352 if you no question.
I agree.
So
I literally pulled my braids out of my live rig the night that I got that, and I was like, "This thing's going in."
yep.
I rearranged it to fit it because it's obviously bigger than a braids, but
It's laid out really nicely. It's not cramped. It's really nice to use live. It's got CV attenuators on all the inputs, which the 350 and 340 never had, which people would complain about all the time. And he was always like, I just use attenuators. So he even did listen to people. His first designs didn't have those in, and he put them in, which is pretty cool.
I saw that you could pick any wave, standard wave shape. I'm like, cool, and then got into like all the
Morph
crazy, the morphing wave shape, and I was like, this is amazing.
Uh-huh.
Like this is next level shit.
that into the Rainmaker, and it's just that's some lovely shit.
I haven't even fucked with like the FM or anything.
I
yet.
haven't
Like,
too much either. It'd be really hard to get something better than that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard one to top. Yeah, he just raised the
unless
bar.
he does it.
Yeah, unless he raises his own bar.
The
Again,
353 is going to be pretty good.
That was his other thing. He's making another bigger module, and he's like, it's going to be a conglomeration of stuff I've already made. That was his
What
hint.
the fuck?
He's going to make another big one, and he's also going to make the CS80 filter, which he had in MOTM format forever, and there's a Euro one coming out that's like that kind of size, I think. No screen, but just a lot of controls, and I think that's like, I don't know about the CS80 filter. I don't know much about it, but it has those capabilities, whatever they are. I'm not super familiar.
Yeah, me neither.
Another big props for offering the panel in black.
Yeah.
And now he's like, oh, it'll
Fucking
always
love that,
be
dude.
available in black.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It's so nice, especially with the screen with black.
Yeah,
in the
that's a nice
background.
contrast, yeah.
Super pleasing. And the editor's fucking amazing. Yeah. You can make the stuff you can do with waveforms in there, you can't do with most other programs.
I haven't fucked with the editor yet.
You can do like wave folding of any of the waveforms you put in there, just select by frequency band, and like you can map like a straight up sample in one of the banks, and it'll just like traverse it and play it like a sample back. It's pretty sweet.
What kind of control do you have over the sample? Are we talking like you can do granular stuff with it? Or
I think, well, you can do...
It's just playing a straight wave file and you can pitch it? Or
It's just anything you can do with any of the morphing ROMs, I think. It just kind of treats it as one of those, and you just do it so it scans it
like,
through.
can you make a cloud out of a sample?
I don't know. I think
like,
so. I don't see why you couldn't.
This raises questions.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to it. I feel like I'm just scratching that thing, the surface of it. Yeah, we took it back to the hotel room, and we thought we found a bug in how the CV inputs work, and he was just shaking his head like, no. This is how it works. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't fucking know. Here's a SysEx dumpster can koozie. Let me throw it in the pile. I was like, oh, man. Great human being. I'm actually really curious about the filter. He makes that discrete filter, the three, I don't know. Whichever one it is. It was like the famous MOTM format.
Right.
5U one. I'd like to try it. It's supposed to sound really good, but
I gotta crack into the that ornament and crime.
oh, that's
just
fun.
so-
I've spent an embarrassing amount of time just staring at that OLED like fuck. It's cool, man. Yeah, are you even listening to it right now? I'm just looking.
I'm just experiencing it, man.
Just like the Lysages waves. The 4 outputs of the ornament crime going into the 352 and looking at the 3D waveform view on there. That's like, yeah, I'll lose some time with that. I've been practicing a lot for our live set I've got coming up, and I'm starting to learn like associate the visual in the 352 with what I'm trying to get back to. I'm like, oh, I know this waveform is like, it looks like this. And you can save presets in the 352, which is awesome. You get like 8 of them or 10. So that's been super helpful for me. And I just like visually know like, oh, this is modulating this. I got to turn these modulations down to get it to look like this again. Because
Cool.
I keep thinking like the one thing I could use is like a switch, but then I keep going back to like, I'd love a system of switches where I could just like turn this setting and it would be like, boom, now you're going here. Now
Yeah.
this volt per octave signal is going to this module instead of this one.
Almost like a routing board.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know what that doesn't exist, but that's still like, how do I manage that stuff live and how can I be faster with it?
Right.
And that's when it leads me to like, maybe you need some switches or something
Yeah.
to like set that shit up.
What's that synth that has like the peg board? So you can do the routing with just pegs. Synthy, yeah. But something along those lines of just having that matrix of routing options right there, and then just plugging in like a telephone switchboard.
Yeah, if you could do that and then just hit like save and then save the
Yeah.
preset and then pull all that shit out and start it again, that would be.
You
that would
guys
be
are kind of
crazy.
describing the Matrix brute.
You're right. You're right.
Kind
we
of are, aren't we?
Clearly, we all need Matrix brutes.
Yes.
I think Hinton might make that switch matrix too.
4MS had a crazy Matrix.
Yeah, VCA matrix. Maybe that was it. So what else?
The Elektron drive pedal.
Yeah.
I can discuss that for a second.
And a Digitact. You got
And
two
a Digitact.
Elektron pieces.
Wow.
So I have 2 things I can bitch about.
You know what though? You don't have an Elektron keychain.
No, you don't.
Wait,
we got
what?
Elektron keychains
What
because
the fuck?
in Knobcon they had a booth.
Aw,
They're
missed
metal.
out.
They're real fucking nice.
Mine's at home.
You know what? Yeah, they're pretty sweet. You really missed out.
I'm a little jelly now.
That's what you should be.
Yeah, it was nice to talk to the Elektron dude.
Yeah, super cool.
What'd they have there? Did you guys get to fuck with the heat?
Digitact, heat, drive.
Because after fucking with my drive, I'm still curious about the heat.
He said that when he was leaving, he was like, oh, the Octatracks were just like on their way. The Octatrack Mark IIs.
Mm.
And then he said
Oh, you have news about that, by the way.
yeah, they're trig conditions, which is funny because even Devin, even though he does more distributor stuff, he was like, oh no, the code's, which is what he told me in Detroit last year. He was like, the code's full. There's no room, but they've apparently found some room to put trigger conditions on the micro timing screen, which would be fine. Like go into micro timing and set it up. Like, but that, like we were saying, that adds a lot to the Octatrack.
That adds a lot, yeah.
Especially because that's recording triggers too, the way the Octatrack works, and it was immediately like, fuck.
Yeah. That figures as soon as I buy a Digitac, because I ruled out the Mark II Octa.
That's what I thought about immediately.
Yeah, I was like, God, fucking...
I heard that and was like, Greg's going to be pissed.
Yeah, as soon as you told me, I just shook my head. It's like, really? Like, for real?
Was it like the night you got that
Yeah.
Digitac? The same night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. For the price, I'm still happy with the Digi. Because the Mark II Octa is going to be at least double
Yeah.
the cost of a Digi.
Yep.
And right now, I'm kind of happy with the Digi. Everything that I've bitched about in previous episodes, specs-wise about the Digi, on why I was on the fence of buying one, I still stick to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Like, everything that I thought would bother me about it is.
Multiple outs bugs me. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't.
the lack of multi-outs is pissing me off. What I have been doing is trying to split stuff off left and right.
Just
to
basically make it a
like
2-channel.
Yeah. Which is pain in the ass, and I shouldn't have to do in 2017 with a fucking sampler.
I mean, if you look at that though, I mean, the back of the board is pretty filled in.
it is.
Yeah, it's relatively small.
And I would have been cool with it being slightly bigger if it would have had multiple outs.
Yeah, even do the VGA connector, like DB25 or
Yeah.
whatever, and do
Yeah.
like make me buy a cable to have 8 outs. That's fine, but like put
Or just have
some
one
way.
input. I don't understand why there's 2 inputs
Yeah,
when
that
you can only record in
also
mono.
doesn't make
I'm
much
like, what?
sense.
Yeah, I just stood there and I'm like, am I missing something? I'm like, why is there 2 inputs? Like, I still don't understand it.
Yeah,
You
even
can easily
one
have
assignable mono out would have been great.
Yeah.
Compared to like like you said, the 2 inputs. Like, thanks for mixing that for me. Like, I don't really fucking need that.
But I do like the size about it. I feel like that's a good pro
Oh, yeah.
for it. It's
Yeah.
so fucking tiny, dude. Because my desk is getting filled. But OS complaints. First off, the filter. It doesn't even have a band pass, and you can only
Oh, yeah.
have
They need
low
to do
pass
that.
or high pass. I'm like, you can't have both. You can't squeeze a band pass in there. Like
Yeah.
that frustrates me.
No EQ.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
EQ. So you're relying on the filter, which can only be low pass or high pass.
Which especially hurts when you don't have multiple outs. If you can't EQ it internally, then you're
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I need to route this to a mixer. Oh, but I only have one stereo. So yeah, that's frustrating.
But I was the same situation as you. The second night I had it or used it, I made like 95 samples of like gear.
Yeah.
Which like I hadn't done that with anything for a long ass time.
Exactly. I haven't done that either since I used to bounce stuff out of Reason.
Yeah.
And I looked at my old sample. It's been like 6 years since I've made a pack of drum sounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was instantly inspiring me to do that. What the hell else was bothering me?
They could spring for a few different effects.
Polyrhythms, dude. You can't fucking do polyrhythms with it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, you can't set the sequencer to be different lengths per track.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Am I missing it? Okay.
There's when you go, if you hit function and what's that far right thing, track or whatever.
The page thing?
Yeah, function and page.
Yeah.
Then it says hit function yes to split this out into multiple tracks.
No
and then it kicks you to
shit.
the other screen. Yeah, it took me a little to find that too, actually.
Totally missed that. That
They,
was
like,
bothering
hide
the
it a little.
shit out of me. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you set each track to a different resolution?
Oh, no. There are no, it's one divider for everything, so you
that's
don't get
global.
different speeds. Yeah.
Okay. Because I did like the fact that you could divide, but I would like to do that on a per track
Yeah.
It
level.
kind of kills it if you can't do it per track. It's always something.
Always something.
I think I found this bug in my rhythm. I was telling this to Dave. So if I have a sample on a channel and I save something, I bring it back up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the sample will be super distorted, and I'm like, what the hell? There's no overdrive. There's no filtering. Nothing going on. So I reset the sound. I load the exact same sample on, and then it sounds clear as day. And I'm like, there's no difference between anything that I've done here.
Yeah.
And it only happens on certain sounds because I'm like, what the fuck is that distortion? Or it sounds like bit reduced or something, and I'm not using that. So
Weird.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that.
I mean, I kept running into snags with the rhythm.
How bad were your snags, though? I mean, were they crashing snags or just like things weren't working 100% right or just irks?
Both.
I haven't had any crashes.
That was a thing for a while.
I
Yeah.
had a
Oh, you
couple
did?
crash, yeah.
And it seemed like it was pretty prevalent for a while, but have they fixed all
Yeah,
those?
for me, it hasn't crashed in years. And I consider that to be one of the more reliable. Like, I hope they get the Digitac to be as reliable as the rhythm, which I think they're getting close to right now. I know some people are still having problems, but I can't, I don't know. Some of those people are like, yeah, I'm not going to upgrade the firmware because this one still works for me. I'm like, well, you're talking about a fucking problem. Maybe try using the latest one. Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
That's,
As a software developer, it's just like you fucking
You know what's in that new version?
Yeah.
Fixes for the problem you're complaining about.
Exactly.
Because I haven't had any problems with Digitac as far as like reliability. Even like the first time I like hooked up the little thing to transfer samples and shit, I just assumed that was going to be a nightmare. Everything just popped up the way that I wanted to.
Yeah,
So,
I've been practicing a lot using it for all the MIDI of this live set and everything, and it's been dead solid. So
it was a little confusing again, going back to like maybe it's because I haven't had Elektron products in the past. Figuring out like this page is where I set the channel and this page is where this.
Oh, it's more complicated on the Digitac than it's been on any of the other pieces because you have the pattern level mutes and the global mutes and then chromatic, and if you want to get to chromatic you have to be out of the mute pages, and there are a few things like that to kind of remember.
It wasn't the end of the world, but it was one of those things where like that was compared to the sampler side where I was just like, oh, this is super intuitive and I need to go to the manual. That was the first time I was like, okay, I need to go to the manual. I need to figure this out.
Kind of pissed that they don't have the instant pattern switching from the rhythm where you could just boom immediately next step jump over to another pattern, which especially with the Digitac being all digital should be easier just to like swap that shit out.
I kind of was surprised actually because like I assumed it was going to be the opposite. Like I was going to hit pattern switch and it was going to do it right away.
I hope they can add it because at first they've been like, nope, it won't do it, and it's like, well, that's on your last drum machine, and that's one of my favorite features of it.
So, but Greg, you have another piece of Elektron gear.
Yeah, I got the drive, which I like. I got it for a hell of a deal.
How are you using it so far?
Running modular through it. I'm running the Digitac through it. My other drum machines. I've just been experimenting, running everything through it, like I do anytime I get a new piece of distortion gear.
Right.
I send everything through it and try to come up with interesting chains.
Does it take modular level pretty well?
I haven't had any problems with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like it's definitely things definitely go through it differently. Like depending on what model distortion you're using and where you have your input gain at and things like that and how hot the signal is. So I'm liking it overall. Some of the different models on it are a bit, I guess, redundant. Like there's not a whole lot of deviation between some of them. There's just like 3 that really sound different from each other. And I like them. Makes me want to get a heat, but I do not want to spend $800. Like
Wow, that's how much they are.
yeah, they're at like $750 plus shipping at most places. Yeah, it's kind of insane for a distortion pedal. Like this is basically heat. Why an extra?
That's insane.
Why an extra input and envelope follower makes it twice the price? I don't understand.
My Eventide Eclipse was like $1,000.
Right.
And that's like an ocean of fucking effects, including distortion. So yeah, in light of that, that's tough.
So yeah, I mean, as much as I would like a heat, I think I'm just going to be content with my drive at the moment. It's ugly. I think it looks like shit. Like
It's
just
very beige. It looks like an old
it's
Mac.
Why does it have 3 different stomp?
one is your active, non-active.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have a dry wet knob like the heat does. It has the on off for the effects basically.
No shit.
So,
No dry wet.
No. So it's a bypass switch, and the other
not
2
used to guitar
are for
pedals.
presets. But I have the preset
Does
mode
it
turned
cycle
off.
through presets, or how's that
Yeah.
work? Or is it you just have one
Yeah, you
loaded?
can cycle through.
Okay.
Oh, like up and back or whatever.
Yeah. Like there's a knob at the top. You can disable preset mode, and then you just freestyle it, and that's all I use because
I bet.
it's not complicated.
If you're standing on
You have
stage,
4 knobs. Yeah, I guess if you're standing on stage, you want to
in your
cycle
guitar
through
pedal,
different- which I'm not doing. So,
right?
but yeah, I just feel it out for what I want to do with it. And the EQ is pretty nice for helping to bring out your harmonics, I guess. The bass EQ sounds good, and the mid can be used as like a cut, basically. Like you can have that cut or boost, and then you can sweep the frequency of it.
Yeah. This is just 3 band, high,
Yeah,
medium, low.
yeah.
Right.
And I couldn't see myself wanting to run like the master through a heat, really. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe unless you're using it very subtly, but
Which I see people do, like in like at least interviews. They're like, yeah, I take this track and at the end I run it through the heat. I'm like, oh, that's like, I'd be curious to hear the A and B of that.
Yeah.
And see what it's putting in there.
But I have been, running a lot of shit through Drive. I've been using it more than some of my other distortions now already. Oh, I'd like to, because I feel like my review of the Drive was kind of boring. I did want to talk about the 4MS STS.
Yeah.
You had mentioned it in the last podcast.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
like it. I used it live a lot. I feel like the OS still needs a lot of work. I mean, it's definitely not like Octatrack in a box or anything.
What would you like to see?
Simple stuff. Like the fact that when I turn it off and turn it back on, it doesn't remember what sample I was on or what settings.
Is that going to be software solvable, or is that?
I think so, because I actually emailed Dan at 4MS. I said, dude, I got a live set coming up. I said, is there any way to make this remember where I was, a power off? And he didn't reply for a long time. And I thought he was just going to like not respond. And then the other day, he just sent me a reply saying, I hope to implement this in the future.
Oh,
And I said, cool, because that would be very useful. Because, like, some stuff I had, like, Bank B set for, like, reversed and things like that for the first sample that I wanted to use. Like, the first song, I knew that I wanted this sample, and I wanted this sample, and I wanted this one reversed. And, like, I had to set that up at sound check every time. And when I turned the modular off, like, after sound check, and I turned it back on, I had to dial that in again real quick. And I was like, shit.
overall, how many like button presses is that to get that set up?
To get to the bank, I was in, like, 5.
That's double and or there's a bass when you turn it on, and then I always know I gotta like turn these to logarithmic, turn this to bank B, but it's 2 seconds. Like it's not a burden.
I mean, it wasn't really a burden. It's just
But if there's enough of those steps, you're gonna forget one of them.
Exactly.
And that's nerve wracking.
Exactly.
Yeah, for what's like a few bytes of data
Yeah.
to store some preferences for which sample you're on and whether it's reversed or not.
It'd be like a bit mask. I mean, it's literally almost no data.
Yep.
I haven't used it for live recording yet, which is one of the main reasons why I thought I would like it.
Yeah.
But instead, I've just been bouncing things to the card.
I really like the idea, like when you first started talking about getting this, the idea of using it as like a version of like a looper
type thing,
pedal in a modular. And have you experimented with using it like that, or are you just so into using it as a sampler?
Yeah, I've just been so into having the ability to do that in my modular now without like any issues. Like I can just put stuff on my card, go to it, trigger it the way I want.
Now, do you think having the Digitac and adding that into the mix is going to maybe free up
bump heads
or free up the 4MS to do things a little differently?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I have the Digi now, which is basically going to be like my sampler drum machine.
Mm-hmm.
STS I plan for using weirder stuff.
Cool.
Heavily modulated sample manipulation, a mangler, and for long one shots like I was doing live, like the choir samples and stuff that I was mangling live. That was all coming from STS. That way I could have things like, a rhythmic structure on the Taraz, stuff that was more freeform on top of that I was triggering with the STS with weird like probability triggers coming from the variegate and things like that.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly the split I found with the Digitac and the 301.
Yeah.
Especially for live use, because at first I was like practicing and I'm like, oh, this 301, this is out for live. Like I'm going to leave it in the case, but this is way too much. And I started to realize like, oh, you can just trigger like a long sample or like do something that's like heavily mangled, get around the one LFO problem and at least like be able to throw a bunch of CV at the sampler in there. So it's starting to work its way back in, like in light of that.
I did find a bug, which was already patched though, thankfully. But I didn't have time before the show to patch it. So my samples kind of got rearranged. Like everything that you put on the card is color coded. You know what I mean? Like you name the folder like color whatever dash your name just so you keep track of it. And for some reason, it duplicated a couple of the folders once it like booted up and was reading the folders. So like white bank 1 and like red bank 2 were no longer what I named them. So like white bank 1 got duplicated. So that became bank 2 also. So then the rest of my color structure was fucked. So I'm like trying to memorize what samples were in what color, and it had been rearranged. And I'm just like, fuck. I'm like, I'm going to the banks, and I'm like, this isn't making the sounds that I remember it should be making. And it was kind of
Wait,
annoying.
when did you discover this?
The day before the show.
So it wasn't at the show. It wasn't like during sound check, because that's where I would have had a meltdown.
I didn't have time to like do anything about it because it was like the night before. But yeah, like.
But at the very least,
during
it wasn't
live, I was still trying to figure out. All right. So this isn't blue anymore. This is purple because that comes next, and like because I had wiped out all the factory shit on it. Like it comes with hundreds of samples from people like Richard Devine, and even Basic has like a couple banks in there. It's filled with samples, and I was like, that's great. Don't want any of this on there. I just like immediately wiped it out. Wiped out the folder structure and like started creating my own, color coded folders of shit. And I was already trying to memorize all that in time for the show. And then at some point, the first bank got duplicated and it just screwed my entire structure. And I couldn't remember what was what. So I had to like play it by ear live. I was like, okay, that's not the right bank. That doesn't sound right. And I'll just like bounce to the next bank. And,
I know it's on here.
Yeah.
I just got to get
it's in here somewhere. But yeah.
Well, you hid those seams really well. I did not notice that, nor did I notice you panicking, frantically trying to find the next. Oh God, where's it at? You look cool as a cucumber.
Thanks. I tried.
It's a weird expression.
I mean, it was all full of sounds that I would like to use live, so it's not like I was triggering like, oh, this is my happy hardcore sound that doesn't fit here. You know what I mean? It was all stuff that could have fit into the live set anyways. So like me bouncing around with shit kind of worked out. It could have been worse. And then I came back and I saw that he had already released, I think it's version 1.02 now, which I think fixes that. I will give Dan a lot of props for the like folder structure on there. I think it's kind of strange that you can only do 10 samples per bank.
10 is also weird because it's not like 8 or 16.
Yeah, I don't understand the reason for that. Maybe just because like it's easy to fit a resolution of 10 places on the knob.
That might be it.
But
could be.
In my opinion, though, like lose the knob at that point.
Yeah.
Go with like a rotator and a little LED.
And then you can just have any number of them.
Yeah.
And you know where the end's going to be, and it's going to just cycle back to zero.
Yeah. And then you have a number reference. Yeah. I think that would have been a much nicer design.
It would have increased the cost to have 2 LEDs.
I'm sure.
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it would not jive with the rest of his format. Like he's come out with a bunch of new modules that all have that like format there.
Yeah,
So-
they're all symmetrical down the middle
Yeah.
kind of thing.
and it's cool. I dig it, and I like the fact that it's fairly simple to navigate. You don't have to get lost in key combos. There are some, but they're not like Morphogene level confusing, where you have 2 buttons to do 200 different things.
Because I remember like that was
Yeah.
the killer for Morphogene.
Like I think that's a great module and just a fucking horrible interface. Like if they would have just done a better interface with that module, I would still have one in my rack and I would be using the hell out of it. But
so it's like a case study on like bad UX. Like people should be studying.
I mean, it's Make Noise, dude.
Yeah.
I bitch a lot about Make Noise's
Still.
interfaces, and
Yeah.
a lot of people love them, so I don't want to trash it too much. But yeah, I feel like that module in particular, extra bad.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like a variation of that is now working with this 4MS module.
Yeah, I like it. The sound quality's good. No complaints in that regard, and you can CV everything and do some really cool stuff with it. I like it a lot.
Jesus.
Look at this module I built. It'll never make sound, but every once in a while I put on my headphones and I go beep, beep, boop, boop.
I could do an experiment where I drop a ball and I'm pretty sure it's going to hit the ground. It's a shitty fucking experiment, but I can still call it an experiment.